So the final of this year's candidates to be Association President joins me now. Spencer Percival, thank you for joining me, first of all. From reading your manifesto, I've been left wondering whether you actually understand what the role of association president is actually about. Let's take what you said about sports club and memberships, for example. You said, and I quote, that you want to work with the athletic union president to establish more affordable recreational sport options that are more in line with membership fees for societies and also do not require a sports centre membership, which is fine. But the goings on of the athletic union are not the concern of the office of association president, and indeed all three candidates for AU president have said very similar things in their manifestos. So why are you trying to infringe on what is essentially someone else's role?
I am going to disagree with you about the role of association presidents. I think the role of association presidents is to represent the students in every sphere of the university and to really listen to the concerns that are on the hearts of the students and to do something about them. So there will be a lot of overlap between the role of association presidents and all of the other SAB roles as well, including the athletic union president. So and some of the issues that we need to tackle will take the influence of more than one student representative in order to bring change about. I mean, the sports center would have already made things cheaper if it was an easy thing to do. So it will take more influence, and that's why I think it's a good thing to have that coming from multiple perspectives.
So how do you anticipate using the role of association president to implement those changes in the AU?
Yeah, to go in and have chats with the managers in the AU and to really just sit down and say, why are the prices what they are currently? Look at ways that we can reduce the prices and find out where we can make up the budget shortfall that might come out from that, or where we can find hardship funds in order to help students who are struggling with the membership fees in the sports area of the university. But we also already have recreational sports taking place within the university, and a lot of that doesn't require resources. A lot of it's done by volunteers, like the recreational side of the dance club, for example. So just making that more accessible wouldn't make it more expensive either.
So from your perspective, what's the point of having an AU president if you're more than capable of taking on a lot of these capabilities yourself?
For forming the roles with the relationships with the people in those roles. Relationship is really important, and finding out how exactly those structures work and having the knowledge and the expertise in order to break into those structures. So yes, I definitely want to be part of those communications. I want to make sure that it's taking place. But if the AU president is like, I got this, and there's evidence that they are making changes and that they don't need my help with that, then that's great. Then I'll step back and I can focus on other things.
So your intention is only really to step forward if you feel the AU president isn't doing what they should be? Yeah.
And not necessarily not doing what they should be, but if they are facing a lot of backlash or resistance is the right word from the people who they need to work with to implement those changes. So having that influence and saying, listen, not only are the students who are part of the athletic union behind this idea, all of the students who are part of the Students Association in general are also behind this idea.
Okay, let's move on then to talking about the campaign to save the Barron Theatre, a very popular campaign within St. Andrews. You've stated in your manifesto that you want to support the campaign to save the Barron Theatre from closure, from permanent closure, and how you plan on doing that is by lobbying the university to keep the Barron open until appropriate alternatives have been found for all the activities which take place there and are fully moved over into the new spaces. That isn't saving it from permanent closure. That's doing the exact opposite.
See, so the Barron Theatre is more than a building. you're saying the Barron Theatre is just the building on North Street, and it's really not that. It's the students, it's the heart behind the building, it's everything that happens within that space. So the university has raised very valid concerns about the safety of that building. We don't want to put any students in harm's way. So if that building is unsafe and unsuitable to use as a theatre any longer as a home for the Barron, then that's fine. But alternatives that make provision for everything that has taken place in that space need to be found before we can close that space. So I know that the Barron committee were working on bringing about changes and improving that space and making it safe and bringing it up to code. But the university also wants to use that space for improving that section of the university, making more study spaces available, making like more student services resources available, that sort of thing. How exactly they're going to use those spaces hasn't been published, but I'm all for those ideas. We do need more study space. So if that's the part of the university that they want to use for that, I think that's perfectly fine. But we definitely need a different space to move all the Barron activities to, which are appropriate for those activities. So like the workshop that is found in the Barron, that is a creative resource that we don't have an equivalent to in the rest of the university. So that workshop needs to be preserved. The props and costume store is really extensive. So we need to find alternative spaces for that as well. And obviously for the student theatre to take place in as well. I personally don't believe that the Bayer studio is an appropriate space for that because of the bleed through from the main theatre in the Bayer. But these are problems that can be looked at. And if we are able to make that space work, and by soundproofing or doing some renovations on that space to make it more suitable and equivalent to what is available in the Barron, then I'm all for that. But if students can't receive everything that they've already that they already currently have in the space that the Barron is in, then we need to do some more campaigning and find alternative solutions.
Is there any evidence, as far as you're aware, to suggest that those activities won't be continuing to take place if and when the Barron does close?
Yes, there was a mermaids meeting with the vice principal in charge of this, or releasing the news. I'm not quite sure if they were the person who spearheaded the whole closure of the Barron or whatever, but they spoke about the movement to the Bayer Theatre, and we asked about all of these things, like having full access to the space, the way that students hold keys to the Barron Theatre and can come and go as they please. There was no alternative to that. Basically, they said for health and safety reasons that students wouldn't be able to access the space outside of times that Bayer staff members are there, which is not suitable. Making sure that students have full control of the booking process is also really important, the way they have with the Barron Theatre, and can utilize that space in whatever way students would like. There is no alternative proposed for the workshop space. They are looking to make some storage space available, but it's not equivalent to the amount of space available in the current Barron space. So these are all things that still need to be looked at, and I think they weren't aware of a lot of the things that happen in the Barron Theatre. So I'd like to help make them aware of those things and sit them down with student groups and getting that feedback, finding out exactly what takes place in the Barron Theatre. I mean, the dance club also uses it for rehearsals. There's life throwing in the Barron Theatre space. Like, all of these things need to be taken into account. So we need to incorporate students into that decision-making and planning process, not making the decision and then incorporating students.
So just so I can get this clear in my head, your first priority is to save the building. If that isn't possible, you then want to seek arrangements to move the activities that happen in the Barron to alternative suitable premises. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, That isn't clear in the manifesto. And as we stated at the beginning of this little part of the interview, it very much suggests that on one hand, you want to support the campaign to save the Barron Theatre from permanent closure, i.e. save the building. And on the other hand, you want to kind of, you're not really fussed about the building, you just kind of want to keep the activities going, but if they don't stay, then it's not really that big a deal. And I just wonder whether that ambiguity in your manifesto is going to end up translating into a very ambiguous presidency.
I disagree with you. If you've actually engaged with the Save the Barron campaign and looked at what their goals are.
It's not to do with the campaign. I've not got a problem with the campaign. It's the manifesto I'm talking about.
No, let me finish making my point. So their campaign makes clear points about wanting to save the building, which is the priority. I think we already have the space. If we upgrade and make it better and bring it up to code, that would be the ideal solution. That equates to the least disruption for student theatre in St. Andrews. But if the building can't be made suitable, they are open to negotiation with the university as long as all of the Barron activities that are currently taking place are moved over into suitable spaces and are accommodated in the new spaces and everything. So I don't think you fully understand the campaign. It is to save the Barron, and with the space being the priority, but it is not the only solution that they are considering.
I understand the campaign. I'm not entirely sure, Spencer, you understood the question. In your actual manifesto, that isn't clear. I am not involved in the Save the Barron campaign. I'm sure lots of people aren't involved in the Save the Barron campaign. Are you then expecting people to have understood and been part of the Save the Barron campaign in order to be able to understand your manifesto?
No, but I do mention the Save the Barron campaign. So if they want to go and look at more information about the campaign, they're able to do that. But I think what I do say in my manifesto is the heart of what I want to do to implement change for the Barron.
So we're agreed that you don't have to have understood or been a part of the Barron Save the Barron campaign to understand your manifesto. We're understood with that. So let's go back to the original point, which was it for someone that hasn't been part of all of that. It's a very ambiguous part of your manifesto. So what I'm trying to ascertain is your presidency going as your manifesto? It's nothing to do with the campaign. Well, how are you going to be sure of that? Because you've put something in your manifesto that doesn't come across very well. So how are you going to convey your ideas properly as president?
The thing is, I can take feedback. So if you're saying it's unclear, I can go back, I can rework that point in the manifesto, I can put it out again. It was clear to me, it was clear to my team. But if it's not clear to you, then I'm happy to clarify things after the fact. And that's what is really important. Having a president who's adaptable, who's able to take criticism and incorporate that into the way that they do things and be open to change. So I will go and look at that section again, and I will reword it to make it even more clear than I think it already is, to take that on board. So I don't think it equates to an ambiguous presidency. The main point of saving the Barron is absolutely clear, and that still stands. And that is something that I will do as president. So if the nitty-gritty details of it aren't clear, those are things that people will engage on and be like, hey, what about this? What about this? Hey, what do you mean when you say that? And I'll be so happy to clarify those things for them.
Okay, final point on your manifesto, and I appreciate I'm not the first person to pick this up. I'm sure I'm not going to be the last person to pick this up. You've made a point of structuring it in such a way that you said what, why, and how on all of your policies. There's a lot of what, bit of why, not a lot of how. Is that because you don't know yourself how you're going to do a lot of these, how you're going to implement a lot of these policies?
No, this is actually a really good point, and it's a remnant of the original style of the manifesto, which was structured into what and into how. But for some of the sections, I felt that the what section was getting a little bit too long. So I added a separate how section to integrate or to split out those ideas to make them a little bit clearer. But obviously my manifesto is incredibly long because there's a lot of stuff that I want to do. And I mean, I've got a whole year, so I need to have a lot of stuff to do and to work on. But I didn't initially do that for all of the sections because the how was included into the what. But obviously for people who are skim reading it, it appears that there is no how if you include a how section for some parts and not for other parts. But for the parts that don't include a how section, just have another look at the what section. It's all included in there. And a lot of those ideas are quite self-explanatory.
Okay, well, let's move on from the manifesto and from the campaign. I've seen next to your name on a number of different places the words dealer's choice. Now, this isn't a phrase that I'm personally familiar with. I've looked it up at some kind of, I think, card game term. So can you just explain what that means?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So dealer's choice are my pronouns. It basically just means that I'm happy with people using whatever pronoun feels most natural in the moment to address me. So that's what dealer's choice means. Although my title is not as ambiguous, my title is MX. So just to make that clear, because some people thought like pronouns equate to titles and they're separate things. So just to put that out there.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. So in a more general sense, tell me about you. Obviously, we've never met before, but I can already see that you've got quite the style, I must say. So is that kind of feeding into your personality? You quite a bright, bold personality?
Yeah, I'd say so. I really enjoy playing around with clothing and just being creative in general is really fun. As a mathematician, I think we get a bad rap often for being quite bland, boring people, but actually mathematicians are incredible problem solvers, and you need to be incredibly creative in order to make that happen. We're just oftentimes stuck in an office with a whiteboard, trying to work on whatever problem is the most important for us at that moment. I myself get very absorbed by problems, my own and other people's problems. Everyone who worked with me as senior student will be able to attest to that. So yeah, I'm a creative person, I'm a bubbly person. I am so happy for people to come up to me and chat to me, even if we've never met, and to have a laugh, love having a good laugh. So I'm loud, I'm out there, and I'm ready to make some changes.
And unapologetic for it. I don't think anyone will criticise you for that. And also probably consciously rebelling against the mathematics stereotype.
Perhaps, yeah. Not necessarily rebelling against the stereotype, more making people aware that the stereotype is not accurate. Like a lot of mathematicians that I know are very much different from what the stereotype would suggest. So yeah, showing people what mathematicians are really like. We're a little bit crazy, we're a little bit quirky, but we're a lot of fun as well.
Well, on that note, actually, tell me about your craziest story from your time in St. Andrews. No doubt you've got quite a lot, but if you can pinpoint one, maybe.
Oh my word. So there was, I think I was in first year, a time where it was some special evening where there was going to be fireworks on the golf course. I can't remember. There's fireworks at multiple points during the year normally, so I can't exactly remember. But I went over to my academic mum's house, multiple mums, and just went there for a social. We had like a good time, everything. One of my academic mums and I went for a walk because we were like, oh, we just want to chat. She's also a mathematician, so like we love some nerdy chat on a night out. And then we went to watch the fireworks on the golf course. Great time, great time. Ended up going back to their house, and we were socializing and stuff. I went to change a song on the computer or something. Saw that the computer was out of date. Spoke to my academic mom. She's like, yeah, I just didn't want to update. There's like no face. Something is wrong. Ended up staying there until like 3 in the morning, updating her computer because I was like, no, you need help. Let's help you. Which I think is the craziest night out. But just in terms of quirkiness, in terms of craziness, I think I've definitely had more wild nights out, but that's a fun story.
Maybe we'll leave the wild nights out for another time. We are going to finish with some quick fire questions. So Spencer, Sally's quad or St. Mary's quad?
Ooh, I'm gonna go St. Mary's. It's so picturesque. The grass is so inviting to just go and lie down on. The King James Library is my favorite place to study. Like just St. Mary's. Yeah, love it.
Favorite bar in the Union?
Ooh, Beacon for the views and also for the mocktails.
Okay, favorite building in St. Andrews?
People might hate me for this one, but the maths building for the community. And there's a really incredible table. Maybe I shouldn't tell people this. I'm going to do it anyway. There's a really incredible table on the top floor as you like exit one of the stairwells. That's like gorgeous. It's wooden. It's huge. And it's perfect for just spreading out all my notes and doing like tons of maths. Because lots of people don't know about it and don't use it. So you can spread.
I can imagine that you would enjoy that quite a lot. Your favourite late night eatery in St. Andrews, or where you go to after the Union?
I think Courtyard, because their service is speedy and their prices are good. And their card reader doesn't always not work like Dervish.
These are the opinions of Spencer Percival and not of St.Ation, I'll just add at this point. Penultimately, Lottie Doherty or Leah Vyman, your two rivals, of course, for this position.
Oh, as in choosing between them?
Yeah.
Oh my word. Just because we share a colour, Lottie.
Fair enough. And final question, Spencer. Describe what life under your presidency will be like using 3 words.
Mm, 3 words is very limiting. Oh my word. Solutions and student feedback.
Spencer Percival, thank you so much for chatting to me today. Best of luck with the rest of the campaign.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for the interview.